Hey, Matthew, welcome to our little studio here in the Metaverse. What do you think?
It's great to be here. I'm really excited to do this chat in the Metaverse. Love the room, love the layout. It's looking like it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think so too. And to our audience, welcome to another episode of BizzTalk, where we are talking about about the Metaverse, doing business in the Metaverse and its applications. And our guest today is Matthew Morris, and Matthew Morris is the sales director, right, at Machinations.
Right. Yeah, so I'm at Machinations, and we spend all of our time looking at game economies and helping people balance their games. And obviously, at the moment, that means a lot of Metaverse projects. So it's something we're talking about all the time at the moment.
Absolutely, which is perfect for our topic today, which is how the gaming industry is entering the Metaverse. So this should be a pretty good show. Matthew, this isn't your first time. You and I have done this a few times over the years, so I think you're pretty much a pro by now, right?
Well, I don't know about pro, but certainly always fun catching up with you, Jason, and talking about these subjects. So, and I'm probably doing 4 or 5 talks a week at the moment on different subjects around game economies and game economy design. Thanks for the clap.
Yeah, I love it. Well, hey, let's sit down. Let's turn our cameras and let's get this show started.
Perfect.
All right, awesome.
Let me see. There we go. Get my camera on.
Yeah.
I love this view. I find it amazing to be able to see your face, and it's amazing how much extra kind of visual language you start to pick up with this view. I really enjoy it.
Me too. All right, cool. Well, let's get this started. So, topic: how the gaming industry is entering the Metaverse. Now, Matthew, you're like already dealing with this a little bit on the regular. Give me kind of your first thoughts, first impressions on how that's going.
Well, I think it's going very quickly. I think a lot of stuff is happening. Obviously, the really big announcement of Facebook rebranding to Meta and all the technology pushes that they're doing to kind of push people into the Metaverse, using different types of Metaverse technologies. But I also feel the Metaverse is rapidly becoming one of the most abused words that there is right now. Straight after solutions and a couple of other words that get used, and you kind of the terminology of it means it basically Metaverse can mean almost anything. Right. So maybe before we kind of get right into it, we should talk about what the Metaverse actually is and really what constitutes a Metaverse.
That way everybody can see you. Yeah, there we go.
Perfect. So let's just quickly talk about what the Metaverse actually is and kind of what's going on with the Metaverse. Oh, I see. I've got a different camera on my head, maybe to what. Never mind.
That's all right.
Let me see. I'm just going to make a quick change.
That looks like the same camera to me, I think, from my view.
It's just where I've got multiple cameras. I don't know how to change my camera. Doesn't matter. But anyway, so let's just talk about what actually kind of makes up a Metaverse. And for me, I think the first thing is that one of the biggest differences, I think, between a normal game, because you could call Minecraft, you could call that a Metaverse. And in many ways, Minecraft is a Metaverse as such. But really, I think for a Metaverse, it then comes into there being multiple options, multiple paths, multiple experiences that players can take advantage of, or users can take advantage of in the Metaverse. And I think that's one of the biggest differences, I think, between a kind of a standard gaming experience and some kind of Metaverse. Metaverses often bring together multiple experiences together, or multiple routes or options into it.
Absolutely. So you'd say it's kind of like it's lots of platforms. It's not just one type of platform either.
Yeah, I think, if you went in and you went off and played Fallout, it's a whole universe that's available in there, but you're just playing that one gaming experience, although it's got a lot to it. I wouldn't necessarily call it a metaverse. Where I think of metaverse, think of systems like the Sandbox, where you've got multiple different experiences that you can go to. Each one has its own kind of unique feel and style or activity that you do in that area of the system. Certainly what we're seeing Meta, what used to be called Facebook, do is they're looking to be the platform that everybody brings those experiences to, so that users can then, through one set of hardware or one access login, get access to all of those different types of experiences, be it gameplay, working, and any other type of social interactions that could be going on inside that type of experience.
Absolutely. So now when Meta is talking about basically building the metaverse, is that really true, or is it they're just building part of it?
I think really what the core of what we've seen kind of Meta do is they're looking to be the platform and the basis for the metaverse. So in that experience, hopefully everyone's seen Ready Player One. If you think about the metaverse, it's one of the first type of experiences you tend to think about. Meta want to be the people that own the headsets and provide the login information and everything else, but give the ability for other people to create content to put inside of that universe. So it could be, someone's going to build an area inside Meta's metaverse, which is then a gameplay car driving experience. Somebody else is going to bring something that's going to automate email content inside that metaverse. But what Meta, I think, really want to be able to do is be the platform that all of that sort of activity is happening on.
Interesting. And now, do you think that's even possible, or do you think there's still going to be several players for a long time that are facilitating those experiences?
I think there's going to be several players that we'll start to see emerging. We've seen the Sandbox, Splinterlands. We've seen these different types of metaverses, which are all coming at it from a different perspective. Now, one thing that I think Meta really focused on is the business aspects of actually working your day-to-day life inside the metaverse. How quickly that becomes a reality, who knows? Whether or not they capture that and they get it right, or somebody else will come along and beat them to it, who knows? But that certainly seems to be the main focus of their angle at the moment, which is to get people to spend more of their time inside that type of experience.
I'd say a lot of people are already living inside a Zoom, so it's not a very far stone's throw.
Yeah, absolutely. Zoom's a great example. Zoom a metaverse, but the thing with Zoom is it's a very flat experience. Immediately, I love this technology you've got here for this, which is where I can see your face on your body, and I can really start to kind of even small motions of which way you're facing. Are you facing me? Are you facing the camera? Are you facing the screen up here? Just the ability to kind of watch somebody's motions immediately. The amount of information you get in communication just is exponential increase over Zoom. I love it.
Absolutely. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but yes, I agree. Well, let's bring the conversation back to games. So, obviously, Matthew, you've been in the games industry a long time.
Yeah.
Probably coming up on 20 years, right?
Around it, yeah. I mean, really kind of full-time, only focusing on the games industry for probably about 10 years, but kind of worked in the periphery of it for much longer.
Right. So now, what role does the game industry play in the development of the metaverse?
I think there's a number of things. This experience we're in right now, this is built inside a game engine. And game engines and game developers have been building 3D worlds, 3D experiences for a huge amount of time. And the skills needed to develop this are very, very similar to that of a real-time 3D game. We're interacting in real time. There's a few of us here, and we're interacting. All right, we're not carrying guns like we do in Call of Duty or Apex Legends, but we're certainly interacting in real time. And so there's a huge amount of kind of technology that has been developed over the years, which is super relevant for creating this type of experience.
Absolutely. I would agree. And I think as the metaverse grows, something that I can kind of see is that there's a lot of those game industry type jobs are going to be in higher demand. Maybe less game designers, but certainly programmers, artists, modelers, animators, all of that. There's going to be a huge demand for that as it grows.
And this has been something that I think people have realized quite a while ago, and seen recruitment companies stealing people away from game development teams into other types of applications outside of games, just for that reason. These people have built up the skills that are needed to create this type of world.
Absolutely. Now, continuing on that same vein, when it comes to like current game companies, what are they doing? So like let's set aside talent for a second, or technology like Unreal Engine or Unity or anything like that. But just companies that make games. How are they contributing to the development of the metaverse, or how are they adapting to the metaverse, I guess?
So that's a great way of kind of looking at it, because there's a number of different approaches that different companies have taken. So I think there's a lot of people that want to be the metaverse, and they want to create that platform that people will bring content to. So certainly with developments of teams like the Sandbox, who have done an amazing job of kind of creating the platform, the base technology, but are then enabling other people to bring their own creative ideas, create their own content on top of that platform. And I think, but a lot of other games companies are now looking at, well, how do they bring their content to other platforms? Obviously, we've got the key platforms that people have been gaming in for a long time: Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and mobile. And mobile kind of really only being split between Apple and Google, with a very small percentage outside of that. The metaverse could be that next set of platforms that game developers are targeting their builds for. We're seeing professional teams already kind of creating content for the Sandbox, but I have no doubt there's a lot of those game developers that are then thinking, oh, well, if Meta's going to be the next big platform that players are going to migrate to, should they start building content purely for that platform? And that platform will be optimized for certain engines that will run better on there, or will have easier integration with the other tool sets that are on the platform. And so suddenly I think there's going to be a lot of demand to kind of create experiences for that type of environment. And we've seen this with the first Oculus Rift. It's very, very difficult to take a 2D puzzle game and make that appealing in a full 3D virtual environment. So there's going to be types of games and genres of games that are a better fit inside that experience. So what I think we're seeing at the moment are teams beginning to experiment and test what sort of content is going to be best served in that way, and therefore which titles are then going to be most in demand on that new platform.
Absolutely. And what kind of, as you mentioned earlier that you've seen a lot of teams, already trying to build for the metaverse, and Machinations is helping them. Can you want to share maybe a little bit of insights on how you're assisting those teams, or what kinds of things they might be doing, without diving into any NDAs or anything like that?
Yeah, that's fine. So I think one of the other bits of kind of technology which are kind of really coming to a forefront, and I think they're often getting mixed in between the two, is kind of blockchain technology and how blockchain technology is then impacting the metaverse as well. And this is where that interconnection between the real world, the virtual worlds, or these metaverses, and kind of blockchain technology accelerating some of this process. So we've all played games where you've received an award, some type of here's 10 gems for completing a level. Well, suddenly those 10 gems that you're receiving inside a game, you might be able to sell those or exchange them for another item. You might be able to play Clash of Clans, produce some gold in there, but rather than just spending that gold in Clash of Clans, you might want to go into Clash Royale or maybe a completely different game like Minecraft and exchange that gold directly for some diamond swords or something inside a completely different game. And the metaverse, which is all about kind of connecting these different worlds together and connecting these different types of experiences into these platforms, that kind of tokenomics and blockchain technology kind of enabling that ownership of items that could potentially be used in multiple games. Now, I don't think we're suddenly going to see guns from Halo appearing in World of Warcraft, but there could certainly be a way of maybe the value of that gun in World of Warcraft. Suddenly, you've got a level 5 gun in one game, you can exchange that for a level 5 sword maybe in another gameplay. So suddenly blockchain technology, which is then kind of really giving ownership back to the players, and if they've purchased an item, that they've been awarded an item, that ability to take that from one universe into another suddenly becomes incredibly relevant. That amazing experience in Ready Player One of seeing characters and items from one genre or from one film, game or something being used together with other players. I think that's ultimately might be a pipe dream that's a long way away, but it's certainly a good goal to aim for.
Absolutely. I mean, certainly, as you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, man, I know some people who have been grinding and collecting money on GTA 5 for 10 years. They could move that to another game somehow, right? That would give you a little bit of a boost.
That also creates
go ahead, Matthew.
A massive challenge of these very, very complex economies. How are they going to operate? How do you make sure they're balanced? How do you make sure that if somebody has gathered a huge amount of in-game currency in one game, can suddenly ruin the economy of another game just by buying everything, or and kind of immediately walking into a game, being able to complete it really easily and ruin the experience for everyone else? This is where Machinations kind of work with those teams to understand progression, understand how game economies come together, and look to see how you can create game mechanics that create fantastic player experiences.
Yeah, actually, as you were talking through that, I was like, man, I think that sounds like a problem that Machinations could solve pretty well. You guys could be right there in the middle, helping these game economies work together, and I like it. Yeah. I love it. Which actually brings me to another point about blockchain is really one of the only ways that this type of interoperability really works, right?
Certainly, it could be done, has the potential to be done without blockchain. But what blockchain really brings is that ownership and that control. Right. In that experience of Grand Theft Auto, you collect all that currency, all of those items, all those amazing cars, all those guns. They're still controlled and owned by Rockstar. And if Rockstar wanted to, they could go into that server, they could go, oh, no, we're going to take that away. I mean, they're not going to, because why would they? But you don't have any ownership over those items. They're virtual. And the only reason you have them is because Rockstar account management system says you have them. Once it's on the blockchain, it's permanent, it's real. Even the game developer can't go and take that away from you without your permission.
Right. Absolutely.
So it really kind of opens
as you were
up.
saying that, I was thinking about the movie Free Guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, on that same token, though, and NFTs, game industry has really been trying to leverage the power of NFTs over the past year and a half. Is that going to continue to be a critical part of the game industry being part of the metaverse?
Absolutely. I think there's some amazing projects we're certainly working with, and we've seen being developed all the time, where NFTs, it's all about giving players that ownership, and that NFT representing some kind of in-game item. So it could be a piece of land, that's your title deed to say that you've owned that land, that you've got the rights to do something in that virtual space, all the way through to items or cosmetics to enhance your gameplay. Obviously, Axie Infinity has kind of led this way with the ability to own the cards or own the players in their world. So you create your Axies by purchasing your NFTs. Those are the ones you get to go into battle with. And I think that is a great way of kind of creating that. Unfortunately, some of these projects are not going to work. They've got poor utility, or some of the NFTs don't necessarily have a real purpose. Certainly what we do is work with teams to help make sure that the NFTs that they're creating have got that type of longevity, and they've got a good purpose, and give players some type of reason for owning them above, the pure sake of owning an NFT.
Absolutely. I think that this concept of play to earn is certainly on the rise, and there are people out there that are making a living playing games like this, right? Or earning NFTs and reselling them or whatever. So.
Yeah, I mean, certainly during the lockdown, the economic impact and redistribution of wealth that was created through NFTs and play-to-earn gaming has just been remarkable. It's really given people access to a new way of kind of creating wealth for certain regions of the world. Whether or not suddenly it's going to be a very long-term way and sustainable way for people to make a living is yet to be, we'll have to look back on that in 10 years' time or something. But certainly during the pandemic and things, it's made a big difference to a lot of people's lives.
Absolutely. Now, as we're coming up on our time here, in the last few minutes, I wanted to maybe discuss a little bit more who has the advantage. And what I mean by that is, as we're moving into this new phase and moving into the metaverse, which gaming companies have the advantage? The startups, the indies, or the big established guys? Like your EAs or Epics of the world. Where do you see that personally?
I think this is an entirely new marketplace, and what we've already seen, 2 years ago, no one had heard of Sky Mavis. And they've gone on to create one of the biggest games and driven millions of people to get involved in blockchain games. And, with any new marketplace, you get the early movers. So the people that are able to kind of move into the space and move quickly and innovate very, very fast, that can take advantage of that first mover innovation. It's these larger teams, and we've already seen Ubisoft making announcements around blockchain gaming. We've seen a number of different kind of very large AAA companies who are kind of looking to get into the space, and those are the ones that bring that wealth of knowledge around making amazing games and making amazing gameplay experiences, and they're going to bring a different approach and a different style. So I think we've just kind of gone past that initial surge of hype, if you like, in terms of the first wave of these brand new companies that are able to move quickly, get something out there and start grabbing market share. As with any of these new marketplaces, expect to see some failures, expect to see consolidation. People that are doing well are going to get bought by others and brought into a larger ecosystem. But then I think ultimately a lot of the very large publishers and large developers have got the ability to really bring some amazing AAA quality games to the space. Certainly what we're seeing at Machinations right now is a big uptick in the amount of quality and experienced teams that are moving into the space. All the way from Planet Mojo, an amazing team of very, very experienced game developers who are building a brand new startup, but they're bringing kind of a huge amount of veteran experience to bear on a brand new IP and a brand new title. So we're seeing this increase now of, rather than it being first-time game developers putting out their first title to try and get into the latest wave of Web3, it's really the experienced teams that are bringing very high-quality games into development.
I love it. Last question, and this is, I think your insight on this would be really helpful because you've kind of seen the industry from all kinds of different viewpoints, and especially given your time at Unity and Machinations. What do you think the biggest challenges are going to be for teams that want to really dive into this space as part of their business, versus maybe just continuing to make games in the old school way?
I think some of the biggest challenges that we see are getting the game economy right the first time. So if you're introducing a token to your gameplay, the way in which a free-to-play game style would be released historically is you'd do some kind of soft launch, you'd get some player feedback data, you'd then go through, you'd optimize it, you'd performance tune it, and then it would kind of be getting into gaming as a service where you're then continuously adding more content to it to attract more players or retain your players. And in Web3, when suddenly it's an NFT drop, it's a token drop, suddenly you don't have the opportunity necessarily to go back and change some of these variables. We did a project recently with a card game where they issued cards as NFTs, and players could buy their NFT cards that they wanted to use in the game. The big challenge is that if you think about Hearthstone, well, if Hearthstone release a new set of cards, if they want to, they can go back and they can change the values or change the specs of those cards and readjust the balance of the game. But if you've sold those NFTs to a player and they own them, it's very, very difficult to go back to them and take their high valued card and change its balance without really upsetting the community. So you can't really afford to do these like long-winded soft releases and adjust your balance and kind of work it out as you go now. You've got to be prepared and you've got to be organized well ahead of time and have a well-tested economy before you let any players anywhere near it.
I love that. I love it. Now, this has nothing to do with the metaverse, but as you were describing that scenario with these, some of these cards being NFTs and they're like kind of permanent, I thought about like Magic the Gathering, like Wizards of the Coast, right? Some of these cards that they made, 20, 30 years ago, interacting with newer cards, like completely broken. Like you can't even play with them. So there's like, hey, in tournaments, don't do that. you can't use that anymore or whatever. So it's a whole new set of challenges. I like that. Great insight, Matthew.
Yeah,
I appreciate
and
that.
I think that's one of the key things. Getting a well-tested design, well-tested before you're kind of selling and getting people to part with real money or part with real cryptocurrency to get into these games. You've got to make sure that you're going to deliver on what you said you're going to deliver and give people that great experience.
I love it. Awesome, Matthew. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us in our studio here. And let's. I'd love to have you back on again anytime. I always love having you on here to talk, and we always have a good time. So, on our way out here, dance party.
Oh.
Thanks, everybody.
Gone wrong.
Appreciate us. Appreciate you very much. Join us again for more talks here in the future. And we'll see you next time.
Excellent. Thank you very much.